So 75% of you guys, my subscribers, were absolutely bang on the money, because after a bit of an awkward start for Dmitry Bivol, it eventually turned out to be a very comfortable, unanimous 12-round points decision win for him, and he retains his WBA World Light Heavyweight title. Now, there were several things that surprised me about this fight. Firstly was Zerdol's choice of tactics. I did not expect him to try and outbox Dmitry Bivol. And the second thing that surprised me is that he actually had some success doing that for the first couple rounds. Bivol found it awkward. Maybe he was as surprised as I was that Zerdol was even attempting to outbox him. Maybe he was caught off guard a little bit by that. But Zerdol did have some success. He was using his height and reach quite well through the first 4 rounds. And I had it even after 4, 2 rounds apiece. And another surprise was the fact that after Dmitry Bivol took over in the middle rounds, Zerdol didn't switch up the tactics. He continued trying to outbox the guy who was getting the better of the boxing. It was almost as if Zerdol Ramirez channeled the spirit of Anthony Joshua, who was sat ringside, because he tried to do to Bivol what AJ tried to do to Usyk in the first fight. Absolutely inexplicable. If you're getting outboxed like that, well, you better switch it up. Now, perhaps Zerdol, having been a sparring partner of Bivol in the past, was maybe intimidated by the speed. Maybe Bivol hits harder than people realize. And I did speak about that before the fight. I said that one of the reasons that Bivol may not have, or one of the reasons for Bivol not having many knockouts might be the fact that he doesn't really like to exchange with fighters. He will throw his shots, and then when you're throwing yours, he'll wait for you to finish throwing your punches. Some people refer to that as a passive defense. He'll either move out of the way or he'll just block your shots, and he'll wait and wait and wait and wait. And when he knows you're finished, then he'll throw back. He doesn't punch with you very often. So yeah, maybe he hits a lot harder than people realize or harder than his record suggests. And that was able to keep Zerdol Ramirez in check. And maybe that's why Zerdol Ramirez, having experience sparring with Bivol, decided not to actually apply pressure, because that's what I expected in this fight. I thought this fight would be far more competitive than it turned out to be. I thought that the first 4 rounds, even though the style that Ramirez adopted, the tactics were different than I expected, I thought the fight would continue in that kind of pattern. Nip and tuck rounds, both guys taking around here, around there. But no, Bivol took over. I gave Zerdol 1 more round in the fight. It might have been the 10th. So I gave him 3 rounds in total, 9-3 to Dmitry Bivol. Zerdol never switched it up. His corner were telling him that he was, I don't know what they were telling him, that he was doing great and that he had Bivol right where he wanted him. Again, it was shades of Rob McCracken in the corner with Anthony Joshua in the first Usyk fight. Very strange stuff. He needed someone in the corner to be telling him, you're down. You need to actually apply pressure. And look, it's not a matter of going in there like Antonio Margarito. You have to apply educated pressure. But what I thought Ramirez would do in my head was walk Dmitry Bivol down behind the southpaw jab. Just maneuver him in around the ring and look to try and pin him on the ropes and in the corners as often as possible. He did that very sporadically throughout the fight. Most of the time, he just seemed concerned with maintaining his range and distance. He really wasn't trying to come forward in most instances. And it was actually Dmitry Bivol who was applying pressure for the vast majority of the rounds. And he pinned Zerdol Ramirez on the ropes on several occasions and let rip with really, really fast, explosive combinations. Appeared to shake Ramirez a little bit, although Ramirez has shown over the years, not just in this fight, that he does have a good chin on him. He's got a good set of whiskers there. I remember in the Uneski-Gonzalez fight, not only did he take some big shots on the chin, he also took a tremendous headbutt. I'm not sure if you guys remember that, but it was a tremendous headbutt from Uneski-Gonzalez that snapped Zerdol Ramirez's head, right around. It caught him bang on the chin as well. And Ramirez just took it. So he's always shown good whiskers over the years, Ramirez, which again makes it all the more baffling that he decided to box such a cautious fight and not really apply the pressure that we've seen him apply in fights before. As I say, my best guess is that Bivol just hits a lot harder than his record suggests. And obviously we know he's explosive and he's fast and he can catch you with shots that you don't see because of that. And maybe that's just why Ramirez chose these strange tactics, which really did not feed in to his natural abilities, his natural attributes, being the bigger man. I mean, that's one thing I should say. Zurdo Ramirez looked cartoonishly big in there. I mean, we all were saying and we all knew he was the bigger man, but it looked ridiculous in there. And I think from what the commentators were saying, he weighed over 200 pounds again. How was this guy making 168 when he's getting in the ring at 175 and he's weighing, or for a fight at 175 and he's weighing over 200 pounds? How on earth did this guy make 168? Because again, this is not like a Tony Bellew who was fighting at 175. He was stick thin, but when he moved up 200 pounds, he was fleshy, right? Zurdo Ramirez, over 200 pounds in the ring, he's not fleshy at all. So God only knows how he was making 168. In any event, Dmitry Bivol was the faster fighter here. He appeared to be the more confident fighter. He was the more explosive fighter. Once he found his range, once he found the timing to get past Ramirez's longer arms, it was plain sailing. It was a typical Bivol performance where he was in and out with the feet, great balance. He was shooting those explosive right hands and combinations. And there were moments, there was one round, I think it might have been maybe the 8th or the 9th, where it looked like Bivol was trying to get Ramirez out of there. But if there is anything to criticize about Dmitry Bivol, it's that he isn't really a finisher. You know, he just does enough to win his fights. And when I say just does enough, I don't mean he has split decision wins. Obviously not. He has wide unanimous decision wins. But he doesn't press the issue in terms of trying to get people out of there normally. He's happy to just win, wide UDs. He's not really going in there to try and take people out. Although, like I say, he did seem to attempt to do it with Zurdo Ramirez once or twice in the fight. But in the end, he ended up winning a wide UD. So, yeah, typical Bivol performance, really. And as I said in the pre-fight, there has been one or two fights in the past where Bivol has struggled for a couple rounds to get by a taller opponent's height and reach. In fact, with Craig Spider Richards, I mentioned that in the pre-fight videos. Against Craig Spider Richards, he struggled a little bit in the early rounds because Spider was, sticking a jab on him and stuff like that. But ultimately, he made the adjustments. And that's what great fighters do. They make the adjustments on the fly. They're not on rails like some other fighters are, where they have a particular game plan and if the game plan isn't working, they don't know how to switch it up. Evidently, Zurdo Ramirez is one of those guys. He doesn't know how to switch things up on the fly. Again, I make the Anthony Joshua comparison because he's similar. At least he was in the Alexander Usyk fights. But Dmitry Bivol, he's a different breed. He can switch it up. When things ain't working, he makes the adjustments, does what needs to be done, gets into his groove, and gets the win. So hats off to Dmitry Bivol. I thought this would be a much more competitive fight, a much more difficult fight for him. I thought that whoever won the fight would win it by, 2-3 rounds max. I didn't think it would be this wide. So, I guess overestimated Gilberto Ramirez, maybe underestimated Bivol a little bit. It was what it was. But you guys, the 75%, got it absolutely bang on the money in being very firm and strong about picking Dmitry Bivol and not really giving Ramirez much chance here. You guys were correct. So from this point, people are looking for Dmitry Bivol to fight Artur Beterbiev in the undisputed unification. There's also the prospect of the rematch with Canelo Alvarez. Like most people, I would much rather see the undisputed unification with Beterbiev than a rematch with Canelo Alvarez. As far as I'm concerned, the Alvarez fight can wait. However, Beterbiev has got a mandatory against Anthony Yarde. If they speak to the sanctioning bodies, obviously Beterbiev has got 3 belts, maybe they can negotiate some kind of step-aside deal with Anthony Yarde. Yarde turned down a step-aside in the past. He was offered one by, I think it was Sergey Kovalev, when Kovalev wanted to fight Canelo. But Yard pushed the issue. He didn't want to take step aside money. I'm wondering whether he regrets that now, because at the time I was saying that he should, get paid twice. But yeah, he went ahead and took the Sergey Kovalev fight. If he was offered step aside money this time, would he take it? I certainly hope he would, because as a selfish boxing fan, I want to see the undisputed fight between Bivol and Beterbiev sooner rather than later, particularly given the fact that Beterbiev is no spring chicken. I mean, he's approaching 40 now, isn't he? Artur Beterbiev, what is he, at least 36, 37, maybe 38? So he's really getting up there in age, much older than Dmitry Bivol. So it's in Beterbiev's best interest to have this undisputed fight sooner rather than later. And if the fight were to happen, it's a completely different kind of fight than the Zurdo fight, because the things that Zurdo didn't do, as in apply pressure, Beterbiev surely would do. Beterbiev is a very, very determined fighter. He's also got some wrinkles to his game. We've seen him box on the back foot when need be, but on the front foot, he's a problem. And again, a lot of these Eastern European guys boxed each other in the amateurs. They know each other. I'm not sure whether Bivol ever boxed Artur Beterbiev or sparred him back in the days. Given the age difference, probably not. But Beterbiev has a reputation from the amateurs as just an absolute stone cold killer. He was just running through people like no one's business, beating people like Usyk, beating all kind of people. I think he even beat Michael Hunter, didn't he? In the amateurs, Beterbiev. He was just doing all sorts. So he was a menace over there in Eastern Europe back in the days, and he's still a menace now. So completely different kettle of fish to Zurdo Ramirez, who had some potential, I thought, at light heavyweight, but didn't deliver on his potential in this fight, at least not in a sense of applying more pressure, and using his physical attributes a bit more intelligently. And that might sound counterintuitive to some people because they think that boxing on the back foot is intelligent and going forward is not intelligent. No, what's intelligent is putting yourself in the best position to win the fight. It's like Tyson Fury when he fought Steve Cunningham. He tried to box for the first round or so, got clipped, right? Cunningham was having a better of the long range boxing. And the intelligent thing that Tyson Fury did was dispense with the boxing on the fly, switch up the tactics and go forward and fight a big man fight. That's intelligence. When it comes to Artur Beterbiev, he has ring IQ. He has intelligence. He can switch things up if need be. He can get himself out of a crisis. We saw him get dropped by Callum Johnson. So he's answered the questions that Zurdo up until this point hadn't answered. So I think it's a very different fight. I think it's a great fight. I think that, maybe I'm going to shoot myself in the foot twice in a row because I thought that the Zurdo Bivol fight would be competitive. I'm going to say the Beterbiev fight is going to be tremendously competitive and a very, very difficult fight for Dmitry Bivol. Beterbiev, again, has that amateur experience. He's technically very good, Beterbiev, very underrated. Earlier on in his career, people thought that he was just this slugger and he didn't really have any wrinkles to his game. No, he's got wrinkles to his game, but he has that all-out pressure style when need be. When he feels as though that's the best approach, he can do that. He's got a very solid jab, and his mentality, I think, is several levels above Zurdo Ramirez, who kind of capitulated mentally, I would say, in the Dmitry Bivol fight. He didn't step it up the way he needed to when he was way behind. Beterbiev is going to step it up. I mean, we saw in the Marcus Brown fight when he was terribly cut. He came through that. Again, he's been dropped in fights before. He's come through and gone on to win. And I think the best comparison stylistically that we can make is, for Beterbiev Bivol was, of course, Beterbiev when he fought Gvozdyk. Now, I think that Bivol is quite a bit better than Gvozdyk, but Gvozdyk was still a good fighter. Similar in style to Dmitry Bivol, a good mover, quick hands, quick feet. Not as quick hands as Bivol, probably not as quick feet as Bivol, but a similar style. A mobile guy who throws combinations and jabs and what have you. I do think that Bivol is mentally stronger than Gvozdyk, and as I say, a bit better all round. But if we use that fight as a template, that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of, that's how I would expect the fight to look, or at least look something similar to that. Not that Beterbiev is necessarily going to stop Bivol late, but I would expect Beterbiev to be the aggressor on the front foot, using his jab, well-placed shots to the body and all that kind of thing. I'd expect it to be that kind of Matador versus Bull scenario. So yeah, very much look forward to that. If the fight happens, I'm not even sure who to pick. Would I edge towards Beterbiev? Maybe edge towards Bivol? I don't know. But I'm going to say it's going to be a very close fight. Watch me shoot myself in the foot again. I'm just going to say it's going to be a close fight between them. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hopefully, Yard will take a step aside and we can see it next. If not, then I guess Beterbiev fights Yard and Bivol fights who? Joshua Buatsi? He was ringside. I'm assuming that's what Eddie Hearn has in his mind, is giving Buatsi the Dmitry Bivol fight. And I don't give Buatsi much of a chance against Dmitry Bivol. I mean, he was struggling for my money against Craig Spider Richards. I thought that Richards fight was way closer than most other people. I'm very surprised that people scored it so comfortably in favor of Joshua Buatsi. I don't know if they were influenced by the commentators or whether they were just Buatsi fans. I don't know. But I thought that Craig Spider Richards fight was actually very close. So, and after that fight, I was like, nah, there's no way this guy's ready for Bivol. If he's struggling that much against Craig Spider Richards, he's going to need at least a couple fights before he's got any realistic chance against Dmitry Bivol. And even then, he's going to be a big underdog. So, yeah, I don't give Buatsi much of a chance against this guy. I think he needs quite a bit more seasoning before he steps up to this kind of level. And look, the other guy in the division is Artur Beterbiev. I don't think Buatsi's ready for him either. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about all the points I've raised in this video.